You're listening to Key Sports News. Hey, folks. Welcome to KSN episode 40. Wow. 40 episodes already on this channel. And this was a big weekend, another big weekend in sports here. As you can see, if you're watching, I am sitting on a rocking chair. The reason why I'm sitting on a rocking chair and not on the couch, the last couple episodes I've been sitting on the couch. The reason why I'm not sitting on the couch in this episode is because there are some clothes on the couch. So, and it's a good thing I have this small little table stand for my laptop, which I'm using right now, so I can move it anywhere I want. It's really great. But it's my first time doing an episode where I sit on the rocking chair, so let's see how comfortable I'll get. 40 episodes. Man, that's crazy. Ugh. So, alright. You can see my microphone. Well, I hope all of y'all had a happy Mother's Day weekend, whatever y'all did. And I had a great weekend. So, let's talk about the big sports weekend. As you can see, I'm wearing the Houston Roughnecks shirt of the UFL. And that is where I will start. The UFL Week 7. So, I'm going to talk about the games, alright? So, I didn't watch all of them. Didn't watch all the games. I mainly watched the Houston Roughnecks game because I guess it is my favorite team because they are the closest team to where I live. And I have ESPN Plus, so I don't have to watch it live. So I did the same thing. I watched the whole broadcast while I was doing some other things on my computer. And I was skipping through the commercials. Okay? So I might as well talk about that game right now. Okay? So Houston Roughnecks, they played against the Birmingham Stallions, all right, at Birmingham. And the last episode I gave you my predictions on the point spread, over or under. I took the under in this game, the Roughnecks and the Stallions, but I was wrong. They scored a lot of points in this game, all right? So, and I picked Birmingham to win because the game was in Birmingham and they won 3 straight Spring Football League championships. 2 in the USFL and last year in the UFL, the merger. All right, so the game was at 11 a.m., but I didn't watch the game until 9:30 at night, and it ended a little after midnight. So yeah, about 2.5 hours without commercials. All right, so that's great because usually the game would be the broadcast itself would be 3 hours. All right, so if you saw this game, how do I start? Where do I begin with this game? There wasn't that many. First of all, there wasn't that many fans in the stands, even though it's Birmingham. It might be because it was on Mother's Day. I think Mother's Day is a big holiday for a lot of people. Some people go out. So, but I knew it would be a tough game here. Entering the game, Houston was 3-3. Birmingham was 4-2. Okay. Excuse me. So if Houston were to win and Birmingham were to lose, then they would have the same record, tied at second place. So this was like the best performance the Houston Roughnecks had in the first half of this year. They scored 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. They did. 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. Wow. And here's the weird thing. They did not get, you know how when you score a touchdown, you have to go for the 1-point conversion, 2-point conversion, or 3-point conversion. 1-point conversion is from the 2-yard line. 2-point conversion is from the 5-yard line. And the 3-point conversion is from the 10-yard line. So the first 2 touchdowns they scored, they went for the 1-point conversion, and they didn't make it. The third time that they scored a touchdown was a pick six. A pick six touchdown. And they scored another one, man. It's crazy. And they scored 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. The third time they scored, they went for the 2-point conversion, but they didn't make it. So they scored 18 points. 18 points in the first quarter. And I'm like, wow. Like the Houston Roughnecks players were fired up, pumped up, including myself, because, I was watching it. I listened to the broadcast. Joe Tessitore with Jordan Rogers, Sam Acho, Tom Luganbill on the sidelines. That is the best UFL broadcast team. It really is, in my opinion. Most people, I think, would agree. Yeah, Joe Tessitore is the man. He makes the games more exciting. He's the best. He is the best UFL announcer. And I don't think he called any UFL games last year. So I'm glad he was on the call for this game. I might try to listen to all the other games, going forward. I might try to listen to the games that he would call. Whichever game he calls next week, I'm probably going to tune in for that. Because, he's an ESPN guy, and the ESPN games or ABC games, ABC is part of ESPN, right? So, which means if a game's on ABC or ESPN, that means that game is also on ESPN Plus. Okay? And since I have ESPN Plus, I don't have to watch it live. Okay? So just don't look on the internet. All right? So, yeah. Houston Roughnecks had a fantastic first half. Birmingham Stallions, not so much. And Houston got another touchdown in the second quarter, and this time they went for the 1-point conversion, and they made it. So they scored 25 points. Okay? Birmingham only scored, I believe, 6 in the first half. So, yeah. Houston was leading Birmingham 25-6. 25-6 at halftime. A 19-point lead. And I'm like, wow, Houston Roughnecks. This is like their best performance of the year. On the road? But, that was in the first half. Still have a second half of a football game to be played. A lot of football left to be played in that game. And it was all Birmingham. Second half was all Birmingham. What's the Birmingham quarterback's name? I was kind of looking up these players while I was watching the game. Case Cookus. This is his first year with Birmingham. Last year, he was with the Memphis Showboats. And there was a play where he went down, his helmet came off, he didn't play for the rest of the game. So the backup quarterback took over, and his name is Jamar Smith. Jamar Smith has been with the Birmingham Stallions since the revival of the USFL in 2022. But he has re-signed with the team multiple times. So he takes over. And man, oh man, he did wonderful. He used to play for Louisiana Tech years ago. And who else was on Louisiana Tech? The football coach, Skip Holtz. Yeah. It was all Birmingham. All Birmingham. Birmingham was catching up. And they eventually took the lead late in the fourth quarter. It was 28-25. But there was still like a minute and a half to go. So Houston had like 2 of their timeouts left. So I'm like, they can probably... Birmingham was leading 27-25. So Houston had a chance to kick a game-winning field goal. But that did not happen. You know what happened? The return kickoff was a fumble, recovered by the Stallions. And they scored another touchdown, and that was it. The Stallions won 33-25. Houston got 0 points in the second half. 18 points in the first quarter. What the heck happened? It was like, it's one of those football games where one team dominates the first half and the other team dominates the second half. Birmingham scored 27 unanswered points. I had a feeling Birmingham was going to come back. You know, I mentioned earlier in the first half I was pumped up because, this is like their best performance of the year. Second half was the complete opposite. Some football games are like that. Some football games are like that. So yeah, that was a tough loss. That was a tough loss for the Roughnecks. I mean, like the way they were playing in the first half, it looked like they were going to win the game. That would have been a huge win. That would have been their biggest win of the season. Nope. Now Houston's 3-4, and Birmingham is 5-2, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Birmingham is now 5-2. Houston is now 3-4. It's funny because it's weird. Houston Roughnecks had a terrible start to their season, but the last 2 games they had a great game, great wins. So I'm like, wow, they have a chance to turn their season around and possibly go to the playoffs. After that game, man, I don't know. I don't think they have a chance now because this is week 7. Yep, this is week 7 of the UFL. 3 more weeks to go until the playoffs. 3 more regular season weeks to go. And Houston, they really need to win the rest of their games, and they have to hope Michigan and Birmingham would lose some games as well. But that is a lot to ask for. That was a tough loss for Houston. Never know. You just never know with these UFL games, man. It's hard to bet on them, but hey, UFL's a pretty cool game, especially when you get a game with Joe Tessitore on the call. He makes the games more exciting. So I think whatever game he calls in the week 8, I will try to watch that because he is that damn good. He's the best, and he will be the announcer. He will be the announcer for the UFL championship game. So yeah, that's great. And he's also the voice of Friday Night SmackDown. By the way, speaking of WWE, I will talk about that a little later on. Okay? I'll save that for last. Okay? Alright. Back to the UFL. So, tough loss, like I said, for Houston. Yeah. So that was the game that I watched. There was 2 games on Fox, 2 games on a ESPN or ABC network. Okay, so I watched 1 full game, and I watched a highlight video of another UFL game, and we'll talk about that right now. That is the Michigan Panthers against the Arlington Renegades game. This was on Fox. This was on Saturday. I forgot what time the game started because I wasn't really, tracking the games live, like I said. And I wasn't at home throughout. It was an afternoon game. And okay, first of all, I've noticed lately there hasn't been that many night games. What's up with that? There's not that many night games in the UFL now. I'll tell you why. Because that game was on Fox, right? Well, Fox does the MLB Saturdays Baseball Night in America. Okay? And ESPN, they either have NBA or NHL playoffs on Saturday night. Okay? That's the reason why not that many night games in the UFL. Well, Friday there is a night game in the UFL, but Saturday and Sunday it's all day games, So yeah. Anyways, this game, Michigan against Arlington, I actually took the over on this one, and I believe this was a okay, I think I got the over correct. But this game was low scoring. This game was a low scoring game until the 4th quarter, okay? So, first half it was not much offense, okay? A lot of field goals, It was a close game. Very close game. Okay. They got Luis Perez, the Arlington Renegades quarterback, the man who won the 2023 XFL championship game. Okay. So, in Michigan, the way they played last week against DC, they're like the best team in the league. But I had a feeling this would be a close game. And I was right. It was a close game. Okay? So at one point, see, I was watching this on their YouTube channel, the highlights. At one point, Arlington was leading by 9 points. Okay, so Michigan is down by 9. When you're down by 9, that is a one-possession game. Yeah, because when you score a touchdown, it's 6 points, and you can go for the 3-point conversion. And that's what Michigan did. They got a touchdown, they went for the 3-point conversion, and they made it. But here is everyone's problem. This is everyone's problem when it comes to watching UFL highlight videos on their YouTube channel. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. They don't show they show the touchdowns, right? Whenever a team scores a touchdown, they have to go for the 1, 2, or 3-point conversion. No kicking. So I just said earlier, Michigan, they got the 3-point conversion, which is amazing. But they didn't show it. They didn't show it in their highlight video. What the heck? Why? And I would always read through the comments, and I would see some comments, and they're saying the same thing. UFL, why aren't you showing the conversion attempts, whether if they made it or not? It's part of the game. This is not NFL, college, or CFL where they always kick the extra point. It's usually an automatic. UFL's not like that. You know, I said earlier, Houston, they went for the 1-point conversion twice and they missed. The 1-point conversion from the 2-yard line and they didn't make it. I mean, I saw it because it was the ESPN broadcast on ESPN Plus. But on the highlight video, they don't show it. What? Why? Why don't they show it? It's part of the game. Michigan got the 3-point conversion to tie the game, and they didn't include that in their highlight video. Dude, after that, man, this makes me don't want to watch UFL highlights videos because of that. That's the one thing, my only issue with their highlight videos is they don't show the 1-point, 2-point, or 3-point conversion attempt. What are they thinking? So, what I'm going to try and do from now on, so that was a Fox game, okay? Sometimes FS1 or FS2, Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2, they'll show a replay coverage of their Fox games late at night. And I always stay up late at night, so I have no problem with that. But sometimes I would forget, you know. But anyways, this game, Michigan tied the game. And it was a very, very close game. Arlington took the lead again. So Michigan, with very little time left, they had to score a touchdown to tie the game. And that is what they did. 0 seconds on the clock at the end of regulation. They scored the tying touchdown. And they went for the 1-point conversion because if they made it, they would win. And that's what happened. Oh, yeah. They did show that in their highlight video. They did. Yep. They did show it. They did show it. They had to because it was for the win. And they won. They won by 1 point. That was like that's got to be the closest UFL game ever. Michigan survived at the end, man. They came back and tied the game. 0 seconds left. Yeah, because when you go for the conversion, there's no game clock involved. The game clock stops. It doesn't tick. In the CFL it does. Canadian football, when after they score a touchdown, they kick the extra point. The game clock ticks down for that. So, but not in the UFL. They got the 1 point conversion. They successfully made it, and they won 25-24. Wow. I wanted Arlington to win because Michigan's in the same conference with Houston. That's why. So, yeah. So that was a exciting game. Too bad the UFL just doesn't want to show their conversion points attempts after a team scores a touchdown. It's so stupid. It makes no sense. And I guess they're not listening to their fans, which is sad, because for a small sports league, I think they should listen to their fans. All right. So the two other games that I didn't watch at all. The Friday night game, the DC Defenders against the San Antonio Brahmas. The reason why I didn't watch this game was because I knew DC was going to win. But San Antonio scored more than 3 points finally. They scored 24 points. The game was in the Alamodome in San Antonio. But DC got revenge. Yeah, San Antonio is the team that beat the undefeated DC Defenders. And I believe that was San Antonio's only win. Yeah, the winless Brahmas beat the undefeated Defenders a couple weeks ago. On the road. In DC. And I believe that was before Wade Phillips resigned. I hope Wade Phillips is doing okay. And then, the past 2 weeks, the Brahmas only scored 3 points. And they scored more than 3 this time. The Defenders, they won by 1 possession. 32-24. And the last game was the St. Louis Battlehawks against the Memphis Showboat. I didn't watch this game either because I knew the Battlehawks would win. But they only beat them by 10 points. It was a low-scoring game. 19-9. I've noticed lately the Battlehawks, they don't score as much points lately. But hey, a win is a win. A win is a win. So, and the Showboats, they have the least amount of fans. They do. So, I guess that's what happens when you are the worst team. Even though their only win was against Birmingham, at Birmingham. See, that's why the UFL, you just never know sometimes. It's hard to bet on these games. All right. Let's check the standings since we have a couple weeks left until the playoffs in the USFL Conference. Okay, Birmingham and Michigan are tied. They're both 5-2, so most likely both of those teams will be in the USFL Conference Championship game. Houston's 3-4. At this point, Houston has to win the rest of their games and hope the other two teams would lose some games. In the XFL Conference, it's the same thing. Basically, yeah, it is the exact same thing. DC and St. Louis are tied. They're both 5-2. Arlington's 3-4, and San Antonio's 1-6. So Memphis and San Antonio, they're already eliminated. So, hey, we still got 3 weeks, 8, 9, and 10. But Most likely, I think Birmingham, Michigan, DC, and St. Louis will be in the playoffs. I don't want to see Birmingham in the championship game again. I'm sure most people don't want them to be in it again. If you're not a Stallions fan, I'm sure most people would want to see St. Louis Battlehawks in the championship game, including myself, because the championship game is in St. Louis. So as long as St. Louis gets in the championship game, it'll be great. Joe Tessitore on the call. I'm sure they'll get more ratings from last year. They'll get more ratings this year than last year's championship game for sure. All right. And I checked week 8 schedule. The two worst teams will play against each other. Memphis and San Antonio, both 1-6 teams, they will play against each other this upcoming Friday night. All right, that is my Week 7 UFL recap. And now, you take a drink first. Whew. Okay, gotta stay hydrated. Especially when the summer season comes up. All right. We have some breaking news here. I have the ESPN app, so sometimes I'll get some big news. This is big news. To the MLB from Jeff Passan. The Colorado Rockies fired manager Bud Black on Saturday after a 7-33 start. Black was in his ninth year as the Rockies manager and had a career record with Colorado of 544 wins and 690 losses. Wow. What on earth happened to the Colorado Rockies? 7-33. Think about that. 40 games they played and they only won 7 of them? Unbelievable. I mean, this is an MLB team, for Pete's sake. And I know recent years the Rockies, they would come in last place in the NL West division. But they're never this bad. This is ridiculous. 7-33. I think this is worse than last year's Chicago White Sox team. Last year, the Chicago White Sox, they broke the record for the most losses in modern baseball era history. Looks like the Colorado Rockies are going to do the same thing this year. Last year, the White Sox, they only won 40 games, I believe. Let me check that. Last year, the Chicago White Sox were 41-121. Okay. They broke the record. They did. They broke the record. The record that the White Sox broke from last year, it was from the 1962 Mets, I believe. Let me look that up to see if I'm correct on that. Let's see, 1962 New York Mets, and I believe that is their first season. Was that their very first season? Yes, it was. It was the first New York Mets season in their franchise. And they were 40-120. So back then they played 160 games. In, recent years, or for many years, they now play 162 games. So the White Sox, they technically won one more game than the Mets, than the 1962 Mets. But the last year's White Sox lost one more game than the Mets. Will the Colorado Rockies break the record again? If they keep losing like this for the rest of the season, then they will. So Bud Black, the manager, he was the Rockies manager for 9 seasons, and before that, he was the San Diego Padres manager from 2007 to 2015. He's a great manager. Too bad he's on a garbage team, man. And yeah, they don't have a good hitting team. Unfortunately. And they're in the toughest division in the MLB. The National League West, it is tight. Let's check the standings right now. Even though we're only, a month and a half into the season, but all right, I might as well go through all the divisions. In the American League East, the New York Yankees are in first, followed by the Boston Red Sox, 2 games behind. The Toronto Blue Jays in third, 3 games behind. The Tampa Bay Rays in fourth, 5 games behind. And the Baltimore Orioles are in last place, 7.5 games behind. I'm surprised the Orioles are in last place. But hey, it's only a month and a half into the season. A lot can change. The National League Central, the Detroit Tigers are in first. Second place, Cleveland Indians. Second and third are... Okay, Cleveland Indians, or excuse me, not the Indians. Guardians, excuse me. The Kansas City Royals, they're both tied for second, 2.5 games behind. Minnesota Twins, 5 games behind, and then the Chicago White Sox, who are the second worst team. They are 14 games behind. The White Sox win-loss record, 12 wins and 29 losses. So, about 5 more wins. They have 5 more wins than the Rockies. To the American League West, the Seattle Mariners are in first. Houston Astros and the Athletics, they're both tied for second, 2 games behind. Texas Rangers are right behind them, 3 games behind, and the Anaheim Angels, last place again for that team, 6 games behind. That's a shame for the Angels. Mike Trout, injured again. Like, what the heck? Enough is enough. Enough is enough. All right, to the National League East. New York Mets are in first place. The Philadelphia Phillies are 1.5 game behind. And, yeah, they're catching up. The Atlanta Braves, who were off to a bad start, 0-6, I believe. I expected them to come out of that hole that they dug in. And they are eventually catching up. They're 19-21. 6.5 games behind the Mets. Washington Nationals, 9 games behind. And then the Miami Marlins, 10 games behind. To the Central, this is a tough division. The Chicago Cubs are in first. And, oh yeah, Five Taylor, if you're listening, that is your favorite team, right? Chicago Cubs. They have improved, that's for sure. St. Louis Cardinals, second, 1 game behind. The Milwaukee Brewers, 3 games behind. The Cincinnati Reds, 3.5 games behind. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates, 9 games behind. Yeah, tough division. And this is the toughest division in all of the league. The National League West, the LA Dodgers, the World Series champs, First place, they're 27-14. San Diego Padres are only 1 game behind them. And the San Francisco Giants, 3 games behind. And then the Arizona Diamondbacks, 6 games behind. And the Colorado Rockies, 19.5 games behind. Did they win any of their division games? I don't know if they did or not. Let's see. I guess I'll check. Did the Rockies win any of their division games? All right, I'm looking at it right now. Division games only. So far, no. So far, they did not win. Oh, they did. They won one at the San Francisco Giants, 4-3. They played a 4-game series and they won one, which was the first one. Oh my gosh. The San Diego Padres shut out the Rockies just 2 days ago on Saturday, 21-0. Then the following day, the Rockies did beat the Padres 9-3. 21-0. That's a football shutout. Oh my gosh. At Colorado, Coors Field. Damn. The Padres got 24 hits. They scored 8 runs in the 4th inning. Oh my gosh. Somehow that game was only 2.5 hours. Yeah, because I'm looking on ESPN. You can look at the stats, the scoring summary, and all that other good stuff. That's why the app is great. The ESPN app is great. If you're a sports fan, you need to get this app. You need to have this app. Wow. And you know how every team plays all the teams in the same season? Well, eventually, the 2 worst teams, the Rockies and the White Sox, they will play against each other later this year. Let me see when they will play each other and see where those games will be at. I don't like that. Every team has to play all the teams. I don't like that. Okay. The 4th of July. The Chicago White Sox will play at the Colorado Rockies. 4th of July weekend. 3-game series. All right, then. Wow. Well, I'll definitely hear this news on certain podcasts that I listen to where they talk about baseball. Baseball Tonight with Buster Olney. You know, that's the main baseball podcast that I would listen to. Oh, yeah. Mother's Day. You know, they have all the teams playing on Mother's Day, and the players and the roster, even the umpires, they would wear some pink wristbands and or sweatbands. Umpires and catchers will be wearing like pink masks. That's always cool. Yeah, they always do that on Mother's Day. For Father's Day, it's blue. So yeah. All right. Now, let's get into the NHL, NBA playoffs. See what happened here. Yep, this is going to be a big episode because there was a lot to talk about. That's okay. I'm not in no rush. Even though it's after 1 a.m. as I speak. Yeah, because I would record these late at night and schedule them at 11 a.m. Central Time on Mondays and Fridays. All right, let's do NBA first. And I did say in the last episode that I'll try to follow some games live, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So let's go back to Friday night. NBA Game 3 of the East semifinals between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers. Cavaliers won that time on the road by a score of 126 to 104. So far, the first 3 games were all won by the visiting team. And then after that, it was the West semifinals Game 3 between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets won in overtime by a score of 113 to 104. Saturday, I know for a fact, was a huge game for the Boston Celtics at the New York Knicks. This was an afternoon game. This is my first time looking at these scores. Here we go. The Celtics won. Okay, the Celtics won that time by a score of 115 to 93. Obviously, the Celtics needed that win. Same with the Cavaliers. So yeah, this series, same thing. They were all won by the road team. And then the other West semifinal Game 3 between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors. This was a close game. The Timberwolves won by a score of 102 to 97. And no Steph Curry. No Steph Curry. That hurts. And then Sunday, last night, Game 4 of the West semifinals between the Oklahoma City Thunder at the Denver Nuggets. The Thunder won that time by a score of 92 to 87. And then the other East semifinal games for... Wait a minute. Why was Game 4 at Indiana? I thought it was... What? Hold on. Was Game 4 at Indiana? Oh, I see. I see. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. For some reason, I thought Cleveland got the home game for Game 3. I was confused. Okay, I understand. Okay, now I know. Cavaliers, they hosted Games 1 and 2. Pacers hosted Games 3 and 4. I don't know why. I thought it was the opposite for a second. Anyways, the Pacers won by a score of 129 to 109. But here's the thing. I got a notification saying, in all caps from ESPN, what's happening in Indy? Pacers tie NBA postseason record with a 41-point first-half lead in Game 4 versus Cavs. Is that true? They were leading by that much? Let's see. They were. Oh my gosh. That's insane. The Pacers took a 3-1 series lead. The Thunder Nuggets series is tied at 2 games apiece. And now Monday will be Game 4 between the Boston Celtics at the New York Knicks. Knicks lead the series 2-1, and then the late night game, the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Golden State Warriors. Timberwolves take a 2-1 series lead. It's a must-win for the Warriors because the game is in Golden State. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing with the NHL playoffs. Let's go back to Friday. The East second round Game 3 between the Toronto Maple Leafs at the Florida Panthers. The Panthers won in overtime by a score of 5-4. And then the West second round game 2 between the Dallas Stars at the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets took a 4-0 score in game 2. 4-0. 4-0 in that game 2 West second round. Saturday was, oh my gosh. The Washington Capitals got shut out by the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina. Another score, 4-0. Wow, that's kind of surprising. And then the other West second round, game 3, the Vegas Golden Knights beat the Edmonton Oilers by a score of 4-3. That was a tight game. And then last night, Sunday, I almost said New York Jets. The Winnipeg Jets. I think it's because I just said Jets. Traveled to Dallas for game 3. The Dallas Stars won 5-2. And the other East second round in Florida, the Panthers shut out the Maple Leafs 2-0, 2-0. All right, Monday night will be game 4 for the East second round between the Washington Capitals at the Carolina Hurricanes, and the West second round game 4 between the Vegas Golden Knights at the Edmonton Oilers. And then tomorrow night will be game 4. Tuesday night between I almost said New York Jets again. Winnipeg Jets at the Dallas Stars. And Wednesday. Oh, okay, so they do get 2 extra days of traveling. Okay. So the Florida Panthers, game 5 between the Panthers and the Maple Leafs won't be until Wednesday night. So that's kind of weird. Because when the series started in Toronto, right? When they flew all the way down to South Florida, they only had 1 day off. Now they're going all the way back up to Toronto. This time they get 2 days off. Interesting. Okay. All right. So in the NBA, I did my predictions a while back. I had Oklahoma City Thunder beating the Denver Nuggets in that series. I had the Cleveland Cavaliers beating the Indiana Pacers in that series. Doesn't look well for the Cavaliers. And I have the Boston Celtics beating the New York Knicks in that series. And I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I believe I did say I have the Minnesota Timberwolves beating the Golden State Warriors in that series. And in the NHL, I do have the Winnipeg Jets beating the Dallas Stars. I have I forget who I picked between the Maple Leafs and the Panthers. I think I said Maple Leafs beating the Stanley Cup champs. And I have the Washington Capitals beating the Carolina Hurricanes. And I have Edmonton Oilers beating the Vegas Golden Knights. So we'll see what happens throughout this week. All right. And some quick tennis news. I heard that Jannik Sinner came back from his suspension and he looked fantastic. I heard that he played fantastic. The French Open, Roland Garros, begins in about 2 weeks. I believe it's the Sunday before Memorial Day. Okay? So every Saturday, I'll listen to a podcast called Holding Court with Patrick McEnroe on SiriusXM. It is actually a really great podcast. And he talks about other sports as well, but tennis is mainly his favorite sport, obviously, because he used to be a pro tennis player, along with his older brother, John McEnroe. You cannot be serious! Yeah, so I always look forward to that, and it's usually on NBC and Peacock, but not anymore. It's on the, I think, True TV and TNT, but I heard that Patrick McEnroe will be the host of that, so that'll be great. I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how that goes. And speaking of TNT, this is really the last year for the NBA on TNT. Next season, NBC will be broadcasting NBA games with Mike Tirico as the main play-by-play announcer. All right, some other news here. Let's see. All right, some comments before I talk about the WWE. Okay, some comments. I apologize to those that do follow the episodes. I forgot to read the comments from episode 38, I believe. So, let me read your comments from that episode. It's a good thing I got the notifications. The notifications do work. Episode 38. For some reason, I completely forgot to read the comments from that, so I apologize for the late. I saw them, I gave y'all a heart, but I usually like to address them on video. That's kind of what I do. Some people do that for their podcast. 5Tayer. This is based on the Kentucky Derby horse racing. He says, I enjoyed watching it. No, I did not make any predictions. I haven't gotten that far yet, and I was watching it by myself. Yes, I have only semi-recently got into sports, so I'm learning as I go, but it has worked. That's great. I am glad to hear that. And another comment. Usually it's just one comment, but for once it's two comments from a different user, CC-ATS. He says, my brother, the one who comes to Eric's videos from Eric Super Magnificent, watched it, and he likes horse races. I did not know that. That's great to know. All right, so that is from episode 38. And I got another comment from 5Tayer from the last episode, 39. This is more about horse racing. He says, I was going to watch the Belmont Stakes, assuming we had a possibility of a Triple Crown, but we won't. So I will skip it. And no, I can't watch Preakness either. Too much else going on that same day. Yeah, because it's on a Saturday. Saturday is always the biggest day of the week for sports. There's always a lot going on Saturday. But I think a lot of people are not going to watch it either because they want to see a Triple Crown winner. I understand that, including myself. But I'm still going to watch Preakness. It's on NBC. I love their coverage. So, Belmont Stakes, it used to be on NBC as well. But recent years it's on Fox, and it's not that great. It's because it's a different broadcast, it's not the same people on NBC, so it is a little weird watching their coverage, but I don't know. Some people are saying that they should push back the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes later. Because, if you've been watching the Triple Crown races for many years like me, Kentucky Derby's always on the first Saturday in May. 2 weeks later, the Preakness. 3 weeks after the Preakness is the Belmont Stakes. But now we're not going to have the Kentucky Derby winner, racehorse winner, Sovereignty, I think I pronounced that right that time, in the Preakness. And I don't know if journalism will run in the Preakness as well. I don't know. But I usually like to watch that anyways because the Preakness is always around my birthday. So that is like my tradition. Okay. So hopefully Mike Tirico won't have another allergy nut. So reaction. So yeah. People are saying that they should push the Preakness either on the Saturday, Memorial Day Saturday weekend, or the first Saturday in June, and have the Belmont Stakes on the first Saturday of July. If they do that next year, I think that'll be much better. I don't know if they will though. Do I want them to? To be honest, I don't really care if they do it or not. Um, as long as the Kentucky Derby is on the first Saturday of May, like it always has been. So we shall see. All right. Now to the WWE. First of all, got some sad news. If you're an old pro wrestling fan like me, I got a notification from ESPN. Yes, ESPN would post some WWE news, and it says that hardcore pro wrestling legend Sabu dies at 60. When I saw that, I was like, oh man. I've heard of the name Sabu. Sabu, his career was well known in ECW in the late 90s. Okay. And I saw a video from one of my favorite YouTubers. His name is Tyrone Magnus. And he did a video of him talking about Sabu. I didn't know Sabu was that old, first of all, 60. And here is the crazy part that I read. Usually, I like whenever a certain well-known person that I've seen or heard before, if that person passes away, I would like to read more about that person or watch some videos of that person. That's just what I do. I think a lot of people do that, whenever someone that someone famous, well-known person passes away, you would do that. Read some articles, watch some highlight videos of that person. So that's what I did. So first of all, I always loved watching pro wrestling, mainly the old pro wrestling. So he was in ECW, okay? ECW, in his prime, he was in ECW from 1995 to 2000, okay? So about 30 years ago, he returned to ECW. Before that, he was in WCW for a short amount of time. So back in those years, from 1995 to 2000, those were like the best years ever in pro wrestling history, in my opinion. I think most people would say that. You had 3 pro wrestling organizations: World Wrestling Federation, WWF, World Championship Wrestling, WCW, and Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW. Okay? So, they had something called the Monday Night Wars era between WWF and WCW. They would have their own Monday night shows every week, competing head-to-head for the ratings. Now, ECW didn't compete with either one of those organizations. They were doing their own thing on a different night of the week, okay? But people look at ECW as the third show to watch. Okay. Um, I'm a big fan of because right now I'm watching the Monday Night Wars era. Okay, I did talk about this in that huge episode on how I got into the WWE. All right. Um, I don't really watch ECW, but I mainly watch their pay-per-views, their big pay-per-views at the time, and usually Sabu would be in them. Okay. And people loved Sabu back in those years. So here's something crazy that I read on the Wikipedia article on Sabu. And that is, I gotta scroll all the way down. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Listen to this. This is crazy. On April 18, 2025, Sabu wrestled his retirement match at Game Changer Wrestling's Joey Janela's Spring Break 9 3 weeks before his death. I'm like, what on earth? I didn't know he was still wrestling. Most people at that age, they're retired. Oh my gosh. His last pro wrestling match was just 3 weeks before he passes away? That is insane. I don't know much about Sabu because, like I said, you know, I don't really watch much of ECW, but he is one of those ECW originals. Him, Tommy Dreamer, Rob Van Dam, RVD for short, you know. Got the Dudley Boys, everyone's favorite tag team. Taz. I heard that Taz was Sabu's greatest rival. Taz is a commentator on AEW, All Elite Wrestling. Well, I gotta say, rest in peace, Sabu. And another podcast that I really like listening to is a pro wrestling podcast called Busted Open on SiriusXM. I'm sure they're going to address Sabu's passing on Monday. It'll be a huge episode. And here's the last thing I'll talk about for the WWE. WWE just had an event called Backlash, which was the premium live event after WrestleMania. And I completely forgot to address Backlash in the last episode. Somehow I just didn't thought of it. But if you're wondering if I did watch Backlash, the answer is I guess I did. Yeah, I technically did watch some of it. I didn't watch the whole broadcast though. I mainly wanted to watch 2 matches. Okay. The first match I watched was Pat McAfee against Gunther. And of course, the other match that I watched was the main event match. Okay? So here's what I did. It was on Peacock for viewers in the USA. And it was on Netflix for viewers internationally outside of the USA. So since I have Peacock, the wrestling is the main reason why I got Peacock in the first place. Because I can rewatch old stuff, you know what I'm saying? But I have to have Netflix as well because I'm rewatching the Monday Night Wars era. WCW Monday Nitro is on Peacock. Since the beginning of this year, Monday Night Raw is on Netflix, okay? So, here's what I did. I didn't have to watch it live, which is the best part. Just don't look on the internet, okay? Here's what I did. This was kind of a cool experience. Well, I have done this before, but I've never really talked about this on how I watch like the new WWE. So, I decided to wait until the event goes off the air and watch it. I watched it, it was so late at night, but I wanted to watch it before Mother's Day, Sunday, because Backlash was on Saturday night. So here's how I did it. Here's how I watched it. I didn't watch all of it, but I only watched 2 matches. So, I was watching the matches along with my favorite YouTuber's reaction, Tyrone Magnus. Tyrone Magnus is one of my favorite YouTubers. He started his YouTube channel as a wrestling talk channel. But then over the years, he got sick of the WWE, so then he eventually stopped watching it as a whole. But recent years, he's been slightly getting back into it, and now he's more into it. So that's great. The old Tyrone getting back into watching WWE. So he did a live stream reaction. I was not expecting this. He did a live stream reaction of him watching the entire event, Backlash. I got a notification. I'm like, what? He's actually doing this live? And he did. So that was great. But I didn't watch it live with him. I only watched the 2 matches along with his reaction. So yeah, on my PC, one side of the monitor has the pro wrestling. The other side has Tyrone Magnus reaction. That's what I did. And I was entertained because I want to hear, sometimes Tyrone, he tells some stories of, of old wrestling while he's watching the matches. So that's cool because he's an old school fan, He's an old school fan. Wow. So that was cool. Watching the event and while watching someone's reaction to the event at the same time. I know. Isn't that cool? If he does it again to the next premium live event, which is Money in the Bank, that is about 4 weeks from now, I might actually watch it live with him. I might. It depends on what's going on that date. Okay. But yeah, I completely forgot to address Backlash in the last episode. So, the first match I saw, like I said, was Pat McAfee against Gunther. And I know a lot of people really like Pat McAfee. I gotta be honest, I never really liked the guy that much. Well, I kind of like him now, but years ago, I really didn't like him that much. I find him really obnoxious. But I kind of like him. I kind of like him more now. I sort of like him more now than I did years ago when he kind of first debuted. And I know his show is like the biggest sports talk show right now. Somehow Pat McAfee gets all the guests that he wants. I don't really listen to that show. Once in a while I'll watch like a clip from his show, but it's not in my favorites in terms of my favorite podcasts to listen to, throughout the week. Nope, his show is not on my list. It's mainly because not only his show is so long, but his show has like 4 other guys with him. I'm not really a big fan of big group sports talk podcasts. A lot of shows you would just hear one person talk, like me. Yeah. Some shows features 2 people, but a lot of shows it just features one person taking phone calls. I like that. I like hearing phone calls from sports fans so that they can give their opinions. So, but yeah. Listen, this match, Gunther, he needed to win. He needed to win. After his loss to Jey Uso at WrestleMania 41, he needed to win. If Gunther were to lose, people are going to say, what the F are you doing to Gunther now, WWE? But luckily, Gunther won. Even though the crowd wanted McAfee to win, I understand that because Gunther's a heel. He's the bad guy in the match. But I wanted Gunther to win because obviously he can't lose another match to Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee's not really an actual wrestler. McAfee had some matches, though, in the past. Not very many, though. He's mainly a commentator. But it was a pretty good match. And then, of course, the main event match. Randy Orton in his hometown in St. Louis against the greatest of all time, John Cena. Yeah. Let me get a drink here real quick. I'm almost done with this bottle, as you can see. So, first of all, I knew John Cena was going to win. But I still wanted to watch the match because it's John Cena and Randy Orton facing each other. For those of you that know, these two guys faced each other so many times many years ago. Especially in the late 2000s. They had a lot of matches in the late 2000s. They were both in their prime, basically. They were both in their primes back then. It's crazy, like all the matches that they've had leading up to their last match. John Cena was the face, the good guy, and Randy Orton was the heel, the bad guy. Okay? Even though back then, half the crowd would boo Cena because they got sick of him, they wanted a character change for John Cena, but it never happened until this year. He finally turned heel. I gotta be honest, him being as a heel is really strange because it's not the type of heel character that we all want, you know? If that makes any sense. It's so weird. It's hard to explain, but yeah, I wanted to watch this match because it's, these two guys, they faced each other so many times. And it's in St. Louis's hometown. That's another reason why I wanted to watch the match. Usually when a wrestler is in his or her hometown, the crowd would cheer for that person. Even if that person is a bad guy, a heel, they would still cheer. So, yeah. So Randy Orton comes out. He has a great theme song, of course. The crowd sings along with him. John Cena's so weird now in WWE. The match itself was pretty good. It was pretty good, actually. I'd say it was better than John Cena's match against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 41. And the big question was, another reason why I watched that match is because the big question that everyone had was Cody Rhodes going to come back and make a return? Well, he didn't. And I think that was the right decision. I think Cody needs more time off until he comes back. The same thing happened to Roman Reigns last year. When he finally lost the championship, he was on a hiatus for about 4 months, nearly 4 months. He came back at SummerSlam in August. The same thing might happen to Cody Rhodes. He might come back at SummerSlam in August. I saw a comment saying he might win Money in the Bank next month. We'll see. But, yeah. The match between Orton and Cena was pretty good for their ages. They're in their, John Cena just turned 48. Randy Orton just turned 45. 15 years ago, they were in their primes. They were, obviously much younger, But for their age, their ages, they did pretty good. But we all knew, most people knew, including myself, we knew John Cena was going to win. Mainly because he just won that title. Like, what would have happened if John Cena were to lose that match? What would have happened after? If he were to lose the match, what would be next for Cena? Because isn't his main purpose of his retirement farewell tour was to win championship title number 17? Well, he did that. He has championship title number 17. A few people thought Randy Orton would win because he's a 14-time champion. So if Randy Orton were to win, he would be at number 15. But I just knew Cena was going to win, even though most people didn't want him to win. John Cena did the same type of ending like he did at WrestleMania 41. The referee went down, and John Cena did the nut shot, the low blow to Randy Orton, and he hit Randy with the belt, and he picks up the victory. 1, 2, 3. So I wonder if John Cena is going to be the champion for the rest of the year. People are asking that kind of question. Or another question people ask is, will he turn face? Will he be back as a face, a good guy, before the end of the year? Because, remember, guys, he says that at the end of this year, he's done. He's leaving for good. Maybe he's lying. I don't know. Maybe he won't leave for good. Maybe he won't. I don't know. And they said that the match between John Cena and Randy Orton was their last time ever. That'd be funny if that was a lie. Like, what if Randy Orton wins Money in the Bank and he cashes it in on John Cena, and Randy beats John Cena for the championship? Randy becomes a 15-time champion. And then we're going to be like, oh, I thought the Backlash match was their last match. Nope. Because that's what they did sometimes, WWE. Remember their match, John Cena against The Rock at WrestleMania 28? They would call it as a once-in-a-lifetime match between those two. Well, the following year, they wrestled again at WrestleMania 29, and it wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime. That was so stupid, but yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what to think. I'd say WWE is much better now than it was a couple years ago. This just popped in my mind. I almost forgot. If you saw that match between John Cena and Randy Orton at Backlash, towards the end of the match, R-Truth came out of nowhere. Yeah, R-Truth he had a history with both Cena and Orton. And you know how WWE's YouTube channel, they'll do a countdown show and a post show of the event. John Cena was at the press conference, and R-Truth was there as well. And then John Cena did his finisher on R-Truth at the press conference, and R-Truth went through the table. Can you believe? You know how old R-Truth is? He's 25. Or not 25. Excuse me. I don't know what made me say 25. Excuse me. R-Truth. That'd be funny if he is 25. He's 53. R-Truth is 53. And he got beat up by John Cena. He does not look like he's 53 at all. He looks the same from 15 years ago. Oh my gosh. I don't know what made me say 25, excuse me. But yeah, unbelievable. So, So yeah, if you're wondering, do I watch Monday Night Raw? Do I watch today's SmackDown? every week. No, I don't watch the full show. However, WWE's YouTube channel, they upload a lot of videos based on their live events. So I would mainly just watch those, okay? Yeah, because I don't want to watch the full shows because I watch the full shows of the old wrestling, the old pro wrestling, the Monday Night Wars era between the WWF and the WCW. I'm in the year 1998, even though that was 27 years ago and that was before I was born. I know that, but I love watching that era. I did. I explained it in my 2-hour episode of how I got into the WWE. I can't stop watching it. I have to keep going. So, because I don't want to watch today's and old every week. Because that's just too much wrestling for me. Because, I want to watch other stuff as well, So, but yeah, WWE is much better now. I will say that than it was a couple years ago. So, next year's WrestleMania will be in New Orleans. There is a chance that I might go to that. That would be crazy if I really do go to that. The problem is that it's so damn expensive. The tickets are so damn expensive. I know the closer you are to the ring, the more expensive it is. Even if you're sitting very far from the ring, it's still kind of expensive. I mean, I don't know if it's worth it, because I'm not a huge fan of today's product. I feel like the people that do go to WrestleMania are huge fans of the product. I am not a huge fan of today's product. So I feel like maybe I should not go, but I don't know. We're still a long ways away until next year's WrestleMania. But here's the thing, guys. If you're going to WrestleMania, you have to buy the seats or the tickets many months in advance. You do. You do, man. So, that's a tough decision. But we'll see. If I really do go, I will let you know. I kind of would like to go because it is in New Orleans. This is my chance next year. I'm sure I'll have a fun time. But I don't want to spend so much money on it, though, I'm not a rich guy. I'm not a super rich guy. There's some super rich guys that they're always at the front row. Yeah. Do y'all pay attention to the fans in the front row? There's certain people that are like always there at the front row. Like, golly, they must be billionaires. There's a fan at Backlash who dressed up as Macho Man Randy Savage. And I noticed that he was at WrestleMania earlier this year and last year. He's there again at Backlash. There was someone dressed up as Macho Man Randy Savage. It's so funny. He's at the front row again. Like, oh my gosh. That'd be funny if he sounds just like a Macho Man. Oh, that voice. Ooh, yeah! I can't do it. It's so hard. Jeez. So, yep. All right. SummerSlam this year is a 2-night event. Isn't that weird? SummerSlam is now a 2-night event this year. I don't understand that. I guess they want to make it like a mini WrestleMania because it's in the stadium now. Oh, speaking of stadium, Survivor Series in November will be in a baseball stadium in San Diego, home to the San Diego Padres. I think this is the first Survivor Series to be held not only in the stadium, but outdoors as well. Wow. Yeah, man, WWE, they're getting bigger than ever. So, I have to give them credit on that. All right, well, episode 40 was a huge episode after all. So if you listen to all this, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you guys again on Friday. Obviously, the main thing this week is the NBA and NHL playoffs. I'll try to follow that. I'll try to follow some of that live if I get a chance. Until then, have a great week. See you on Friday. Thank you for listening to Keith's Sports News.